Righto. Welcome all to Upper Hunter Shire Council's Corporate Services Committee meeting on the 18th of November 2022. I call this meeting open at 9 a.m. Firstly, can we call for any applications? There have been applications for attending the meeting by video link.
Mr. Chair, there's one from Councillor Burns. He's requested that he attends by Zoom link because he's attended hospital this week and he's been asked to recover at home.
No, well, I'll move that motion, and I believe Mr. Burns is the other participant here.
So I'll second it.
Righto, so you've got an option here, Burnsy. You call yourself in.
Yeah, no, I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Very good. We got any apologies, General Manager?
Nil received, Mr. Chair.
And disclosures of interest?
Nil received today.
And is a public participation in this meeting?
There's no public participation.
Very good. So through that, let's move forward into the business items. If I could call on Mr. Phelps presenting corporate 11.1 financial summary and investment report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll just go through the first report, which is in regards to the financial information summary. So overall, for the period ended September 22, we've got an indication of a negative variance to budget of 416,000, and that's comparing to a positive variance of 232 in the August period. Included in here, in the report, we have a number of request votes and surrenders relating primarily to the Capital Works program. So we've gone through and done a full review of our Capital Works program from the original DPOP that was adopted in June 22. And we've had to look at a realistic delivery of a number of our projects coming through. So we've got some very large votes coming into the mix. Main reason for looking at these deliverable expectations was mainly due to a couple of items, which was the limited resourcing options that we have available to the council at the moment, both internally from a staffing point of view, but also from an external point of view with contractors. Contractors are also stretched in the industry as well. And the other major factor is the considerable lead time we have on materials at this point in time, especially in regards to pipes. So taking all those into account, we looked at these early in the mix so that we can make some realistic decisions going forward. That's not to say that coming through, we may have some other further variations coming in for a number of our major projects like bridges that we've got happening at the moment with the contractors' timelines being provided. Also, another factor that's come through is ratification of a number of our funding opportunities that the former coalition government gave us. We've been waiting on some ratification by the newly formed Labor government for a number of these major projects, and that mainly being Main Road 358 and also the Scone CBD revitalisation. So just going down as a summary overall of the period to date for September. So I'll just run through the different categories within the budget. So revenue is up at the moment by 577,000. We've got a few that's up and down in this area here. Childcare revenues lower by about 84,000. Obviously, we've had a reduction in our early learning centre and family daycare utilisations due to staff shortages primarily, but also with the family daycare, a bit of a COVID hangover. So we're starting to build our educators now, but we've got to get it back up to a level that becomes profitable. Moving into the tourism and promotions, higher than budget by $200,000, obviously with a new grant coming through for stimulation of the tourism and entertainment sector post-COVID. General revenues higher by about 180,000. We received a little bit higher in financial assistance grants for the quarter, which was quite good. And we'll see that coming through. So we'll take up a vote for that probably in the next meeting identifying the increase in the FAGS grant, but also lower expectations for the pensioner concessions to date. Another item that's higher is the sporting ground and venues. We've received the full grant funding already for the Jefferson Park Master Plan, which was quite good. So we've got the whole $50,000 came through from the state government, where we only thought we'd be getting 20. So that's a bonus. So that's going to fully fund that master plan moving forward. Also, there's increase in our event fees down at White Park, which is quite good as well. So that's the main reason for that one. Hunter Warbirds and Airdrome revenues down by about 75,000, a bit lower in our expected Shire and non-Shire user fees to date. But and also expected ticket sales at Hunter Warbirds has been a bit slower than we anticipated. And the final one in the revenue area is the local roads revenue. It's higher by about 320,000. Again, we've got an increase in our financial assistance grants in this side as well. And also we received the Safer Roads and Resources for Regions milestone payments a little bit earlier than we expected. So it's only really a timing issue there. Moving into the non-operating revenue and expenditure. Here we're a little bit down at the moment in our revenue streams for our internal fleet hire and our gravel from our council pits, both internal items within council. A little bit lower based on the fact that a lot of our projects haven't really got into full steam yet. So we're expecting that to catch up as time goes by. So nothing really to worry about in that area. Operating expenditures overall nearly spot on. So it's down by about $90,000. Pretty well consistent across the board. Three main items included here. Our waste operations a little bit higher at the end of September by about 110, just with a higher landfill site operation costs, and the state government waste levy was a little bit higher than we anticipated to this point. Town planning costs are higher by about 69 due to staff shortages. We've had to enlist some contractors and consultants to undertake a lot of our work. That's provided a little bit of extra revenue as well, which is quite good on the other side of that. So it's an offsetter coming through. And the final one there is the RMS State Roads. We've been getting a little bit more requests from the transport in regards to work on the Golden Highway. So its costs are up at the moment by about $220,000, which we should see increases in our revenue streams coming through on the other side of that.
If I could, Mr. Phelps, so that seems to be a little bit of an opportunity for us over there. I think there's a lot of feedback into the nature of the road out Golden Highway. If we got the infrastructure out there to take advantage of that going forward, and do we need more equipment out of that Merriwa site?
So we have a crew that's dedicated to Golden Highway works. We also have a number of contracts in place because some of the works that we undertake are heavy patching, asphalting and the like. I was in Merriwa on Tuesday, and I would have to say that the section of the Golden Highway on our side of the boundary is significantly better than the southern end. I would say we're probably well ahead of our works program in relation to other councils. But we do share those contractors with other councils. So there'll be times where we don't have access to those contractors when they go to the others. But we do have a base or a core group of staff that are dedicated to that. And we do have a works program. We've had a number of meetings with the Transport for New South Wales coordinator, who does the inspections and monitors the work on their behalf. And at this stage, I understand that they're comfortable with the volume of work that we're doing, the quality of work and the resources we have. It's probably all I can give you at this stage.
No, thank you, General Manager. Much appreciated.
Moving now down into the capital works area here, a little bit overspent at this point in time, which gives us the negative balance effect or negative variance to budget at this point in time. The highlighted items here: waste stream rollout, the waste stream lid bins. So we've got our final payment for that came through. So we'll have a final grant fund milestone to offset that. Airport development, just with the carryover works left over from last year, being the work shed and also the finalisation of the fencing. So we've got some grant funding offsetting against that as well. Cameron's Bridge approaches has now been finalised and the bridge is now open. So with regards to that, we've a little bit overspent at this point in time. So it's effectively got grant funding on the other side of that as well, coming into the mix. So we've got that taken up as into the votes. The bridge replacement program is lower by about $200,000. Again, it's mainly due to the contractor with delays getting the design works back out of the contractor. So we're just pushing that through and hopefully we'll get those finalised very shortly so we can start commencement of the construction of the bridges moving into the back end of this financial year. The local unsealed roads resheet program a little bit higher than budget, so we're keeping on top of our resheeting program, which is really good, especially with the roads in the conditions that they are at the moment. And Main Road 62, the Ridgeland Street intersection, we'd scheduled that to start in September, but it's just been delayed. So we've had to push it back with our timing. So overall, as you can see there, there's a variance to budget, which is negative of 416,000. Budget position, we've got a number of, as I said earlier, with the votes and surrenders coming through, but overall they offset each other on the bottom line. The bank funds and investment report, pretty well at the end of September, we've got $32.2 million in funds, of which 31.46 million is included in our investments. So there's a schedule, obviously, highlighting all those investments coming through, which we've been getting really good rates of return now, which and a lot of the earlier ones where they've been at 0.0000 is actually getting a lot better returns.
What's our requirement? I'm sorry, I've forgotten this. What's our requirement? What do we need in that account there?
What sort of investments?
Yeah. So what's the number that we need there to keep ourselves in the compliant?
Yeah, effectively, just as long as it's a capital guaranteed investment, being term deposits or bonds.
Yeah.
So there's no set number of you have to have in investments, but we have to put in, or we effectively have a policy where we put all surplus funds that we do have within council into investments so that we obtain the optimal interest return as we can.
Sure.
Moving into the capital works expenditure report. Here you can see at the end of September, our revised capital works program has reduced down to 36.84 million, and that's a reduction from 51.9. So as you can see, we've got about $15 million ripped out of that in votes coming through, which we'll go through in a bit more detail shortly. So obviously that, as I mentioned earlier on, is following a critical review of where we thought we were sitting in regards to delivery of a lot of our major infrastructure projects. Moving into the KPI side of things, here we've got the KPIs for the quarter ended September 22. As you can see there, just in high level summary, 22 of the 97 indicators, which is about 22%, is off track at this point in time. So it's very early days within the year. So a lot of these ones we'll be looking at, the ones that are off track, and bringing those back on track as we review those coming through over the next 3 to 6 months. So obviously we'll be looking at those with great intent. Moving then into page 8. So just more or less we've got on page 8 through to page 11 is just the high level summary of our fund summary and also then the function summary. So the fund with the general water and sewer funds, as you can see, the votes on this page come back to 0, and you can see the number of votes coming through. When we look at the function summary from 9 to 11, it's more or less looking at each service entity coming through. And again, the votes showing in those areas. Moving into our bank reconciliation and our graph for our funds. So on page 12, As you can see here, the worm sort of like went up in June. We paid a lot of creditors in our July period. And since July, we've sort of like stayed status quo, coming through with funds coming in and funds going out. Moving on to our investment schedule on page 13. Here you can see the investments we are actually holding and the interest rates that we've been able to obtain coming through the mix. So as you can see, I think in here, our latest one that we've put on has been ones going around the 3.5 and up to 4.25%. So 4.25 has been the latest couple that we've whacked onto the system. On the next schedule on page 14, it's just more or less our loan schedule where we're sitting at this point in time. So obviously we've got 33 million outstanding in debt on principal at this point.
Just, oh, sorry, Mike. Just on this, and the reason why I asked the question on the investments, if we and I've missed this earlier, but in a period where we've had quite strong inflation, I just wonder why we've got investments at minimal amounts, yet we're paying 7 and 8% on property debt. Is there a rationale for why we perhaps haven't used some of those funds? And you know, there's a gain of 7% in there plus gain on that.
Ultimately, Mr. Chair, we've looked at this sort of like about 3 years ago, as the rates of interest were reducing significantly, and it's the breakage costs. With all our loans, we sit on a fixed rate of interest, so we know a surety of what our repayments are coming through. So obviously, with a lot of those ones that are in there from 10 years ago, a lot higher interest rate, and the breakage costs far outweighs the actual benefit of paying them off.
Sure.
The couple of benefits we have had with our latest borrowings are that we've been able to secure those borrowings at around the 2.2 up to 2.8 mark. So with a lot of our recent borrowings, we're getting interest on our investments now higher than we're actually paying on those debts, which is quite good.
Yeah.
Moving into our next schedule, just on in the first report, is our capital works expenditure, and here you'll see that the requested surrenders here is $15 million. So if you like to just have a bit of a look down that just gives you a high level summary of all those capital works items that we have in the mix at this point in time. And it's not until we get down into the recreation area where we've got the White Park complex is where we start seeing a lot of our surrenders coming out. The majority of them mainly sit with the roads area. So the roads area, we've effectively got $11.8 million in surrenders coming out, including our transport auxiliaries, which is the CBD. And also with water and sewer, we've more or less got another $3 million coming out of that area as well. Cool. Okay.
Just on CBD, we heard very positive news on the radio this morning about the efforts of the council in securing the funding for MH358. Just wondering how we're going with the CBD Kelly Street revitalisation funding.
Yeah, similar good news. We've been advised that the federal government is going to provide that funding for us, the extra $8 million, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, we don't have a deed signed as yet. So unfortunately, we're unable to tender the whole project, but we expect the funding deed to be signed in the next few months.
Wonderful.
Yep.
All
But
right,
it's definitely
we're going forward.
We certainly are, but
Okay.
obviously we can't commit funds
Yep.
until we have that deed signed.
Excellent. Righto. Look forward to hearing our progress.
So any other questions in regards to the first report, Mr. Chair?
Councillor Burns shaking his head. We're happy. All right. Are you happy to vote this all through together, Councillor Burns. Happy he is. I put the motion that we that the recommendation to the committee, I'll just go through them. One, note the fund and function summary report, note the cash and investment report, note the responsible accounting officer's statement on investments, note the capital works expenditure report, and adopt the proposed budget variations. Do I have a
I'll
mover?
second that.
I'll move that and you can second that. Well
There
done.
you go.
You're ahead of it. All right, if we can move forward to the operational report 11.2. Please, Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with this report, it being the quarterly report, it's the larger one. So effectively, I'll just keep going through the report as it goes, and any questions, just pull me up as we discuss it. Moving on to page 28, here we've got a vote coming through on both sides of the ledger, being increasing our grant funding as well as costs for a VMS board for the local roads speed project. So overall, they offset each other. Overall, year to date, a little bit overspent in this one, mainly due to that VMS board acquisition underneath that local roads area. Moving into the second area on communications, no votes or surrenders here. A little bit in front of budget at the moment, just with a few savings in our salaries to date. The KPI on page 30 is green indicated there, so nothing to highlight there. Corporate services, no votes or surrenders coming through here. We're nearly spot on in regards to our year to date, so nothing to highlight there. Customer service, no votes or surrenders coming through. A little bit overspent in this area, just in regards to salaries to the end of September, but it's only very minimal. So nothing else to highlight there. And our KPIs on page 33, a green indicator, so nothing to highlight there. Moving into depot operations, no votes or surrenders here. A little bit in front of budget to date. A little bit further revenue coming through in regards to our leasing of our radio towers, and also less expenditure required on our building maintenance at this point in time. So apart from that, nothing else to highlight. Financial services, here we've got a small vote and surrender coming through, just offsetting each other, just identifying some additional small furnishing and equipment acquisition, just to replace a Zippy in the government's governance area in the kitchen. Overall, we're a little bit underspent in this area, mainly due to the salaries in the admin area, just with some vacancies that we have in that area at this point in time. Apart from that, nothing else to highlight. Moving into the KPIs on 36 and 37, two green indicators there, so nothing to highlight there. Page 38, we've got fleet management, no votes or surrenders coming through. A little bit behind budget by about 86,000, which effectively is the internal fleet recovery coming through. So apart from that, nothing else to highlight there. KPI side of things on page 39 to 40, two green indicators there. So all good, nothing to highlight there. General management, no votes or surrenders coming through. A little bit overspent at this point in time, just with a little bit extra cost for a consultant coming through doing a bit of work for us. So apart from that, nothing else to highlight. KPI side of things on page 42, a green indicator there. So nothing to highlight other than that. Governance and risk, no votes or surrenders coming through. A little bit overspent here by a couple of $1,000, just with our insurances coming through. It's a little bit more than we anticipated by about $5,000, which was quite good given the insurance market at the moment. So apart from that, nothing to highlight. KPI side of things on page 44, a green indicator there. So that's all good. Human resources, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Again, we're a little bit underspent in this area. With our trainee costs, we haven't, we've got a couple of trainee positions that are vacant at this point in time. So once they get filled, that should catch up a little bit, but we're a little bit underspent at that point in time coming through. KPI on page 46, just in regards to our employee turnover percentage, a red indicator here. We had a fairly massive turnover in the last quarter, which was quite significant. A lot of those were resignations, but a lot of them were retirement terminations as well. So it's sort of like a mixture, and it's sort of like a perfect storm coming through in that quarter. Since that end of that quarter, it has eased off a bit, which is pleasing.
Is there indication from exit interviews as to the trend on why we're seeing this? It is a bit of a concern amongst the community. They're seeing the churn, and have we got solid explanation for it?
I wouldn't say a solid explanation. The exit interviews vary. You get everything from taking the new opportunity, you know, the next promotion that comes along, family reasons, through to people being dissatisfied in the workplace. So there are the full gambit. I won't hide that, you know, people are unhappy, people move on, people are taking opportunities. But I wouldn't say that there's one dominant factor. It is quite spread across the board.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as well, I think we have to take into account the unemployment rate. It's the lowest that it's been in 40 years. And, you know, certainly in my industry, I can't get anyone. I've got 4 positions to fill. I can't get anyone to do it.
Yes, through the chair, I think it's pretty well, from my understanding, within the industry, the actual local government industry, it's predominant right across the industry. So we're not Robinson Crusoe in regards to terminations and shortages of staff at this point in time. Moving further through the report, so moving on to information services, there's no votes or surrenders here. A little bit overspent at this point in time, mainly due to some prepayment of support costs coming into the mix. We're more or less putting into place a new software package called for our procurement side of the business. So we've prepaid all that coming through. So that's just a timing issue. KPI side of things on page 48, a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Infrastructure support, no votes or surrenders here, a little bit underspent. Again, just mainly in regards to salaries with a vacancy in that area at this point of time. Moving into revenue services, no votes or surrenders coming through here, and nearly spot on overall. It's a bit of an offset between user fees and legal costs coming into the mix, just recovery of our recovery action that we undertake. KPI side of things, we've got 2 green indicators and 1 amber indicator. The amber indicator is the level of debt at 90 days, which has improved significantly over the past 3 months, which is quite pleasing. Moving into stores and purchasing on page 54, no votes or surrenders here. A little bit overspent, mainly due to the suspense account, which is pretty well gravel stockpiles that which will be reallocated to our road projects once we get the information. KPI side of things is our level of our stock on hand at this point in time. As you can see, it's quite significantly higher, mainly due to us trying to secure as many materials as we can, i.e. pipes, into our system. So overall, you should see that come back down as we utilize the pipes. So that's a red indicator at this point. Sustainability on page 56, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit underspent at the moment, obviously with the staff vacancy of the manager of waste and sustainability. So it's a little bit underspent in that area. KPI side of things, the green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Admin and education under community services, no votes or surrenders in this area. A little bit underspent in this area by about 20,000, mainly due to the lower salaries due to the manager's extended leave that was taken during the last 3 months of in the quarter. Apart from that, nothing else to highlight there. KPI side of things, we've got one red indicator and a green indicator. The red indicator is more or less in regards to engagement of organisations in partnership programs. So only a little bit behind, 26 engagements to 30, so it won't take much to pick that up. Moving on to aged care government place. Here we've just got an offsetting grant and COVID related employment costs included in the mix. Mainly due to the outbreak that we had over there in regards to COVID, we'll be able to recover all those costs back from the New South Wales Health. So that's quite pleasing. Overall, as you can see in this area, we're still struggling with government place. We're trying to mitigate as much of the damage as we can, but obviously with the compliance issues that we've got, we need to continue to fund it coming in. Moving into the KPIs, we've got here a green indicator and an amber indicator. The amber indicator is more or less the occupancy. We are now fully tenanted, so that should improve over the course of the next quarter. Moving into aged care independent living units, no votes or surrenders here. A little bit underspent at the moment, mainly in regards to building maintenance and also the timing of our replacement of floor coverings in one of the units. So that should be done once it's completed. KPI side of things on 65, a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Early Learning Centre on page 66. Here we've got just some offsetting votes and surrenders within the capital expenditure area, just to reallocated some funds to some further identified capital works coming in. Overall, we're a little bit behind budget, mainly due to the utilisation of the facility based on the fact that we don't have staffing available to increase our numbers on hand and to be compliant effectively. So as the staff increase, hopefully over the course of the year, the compliance, our number of students in there will increase, which hopefully will provide a more beneficial outcome. Moving on to our KPIs on page 68, a red indicator there, obviously with the utilisation. So as you can see, we're about 17 basis points down in regards to that. Family daycare, similar situation in regards to that, although we're actually holding our own in regards to our overall position year to date. No votes or surrenders. We're a little bit underspent, mainly in regards to the carer payments, which is the CCS. Could be a little bit of a timing issue with regards to receipt of our childcare subsidies from the government. So obviously it's holding its own though, which is quite pleasing. With regards to the KPIs, the red indicator here, as you can see, with the average full-time equivalent children in our facilities, in the actual the operations, it's down by about 10 FTEs. So as you can see, that always drives the revenue down. Moving into social protection, here we've got no votes or surrenders, and nearly spot on overall. KPI side of things, we just got one amber item there, just one behind in regards to the number of social protection meetings that we held with council. Moving into youth services, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit underspent at this point in time. Couple of items there is mainly the drop in an EIPP area. So we're a little bit underspending those items. Obviously over the course of the year, we'll pick up that and expend it, especially the EIPP, seeing it's a grant funded option. KPI side of things on page 74 through to 76, 2 green indicators and 1 red indicator. The red indicator being the working partnerships with schools and organisations. So we need to improve in that area. Moving on to page 77, camping care areas and caravan parks, no votes or surrenders coming through. A little bit overspent in this one, although we've got our revenue up in regards to the caravan parks, which is quite pleasing. We've had a fair bit of building maintenance that's been required over there. So it's probably a one-off hit, and hopefully with the increase in our revenue streams continuing, it makes, it'll come back into parity. KPI side of things, two green indicators here. As you can see, our facilities are getting well and truly utilised by the travelling community, which is a great result. Moving on to Community Connect services on page 80, no votes or surrenders here, a little bit in front of budget, mainly due to a bit higher Centrelink agency fees coming through, which is quite pleasing. Economic promotion, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Here we're a little bit underspent, mainly due to, again, in regards to salaries with the staff vacancy of the Manager of Business Services. So there's a bit of a saving on the bottom line there. Moving on to the KPI, here we've got a red indicator, a little bit behind in regards to our grants funding secured. Obviously with the state government coming through with its election in 25th of March, we should see a turnaround in that area. Fingers crossed.
Sounds hopeful.
Moving on to private works on page 83, no votes or surrenders here. Both income and expenditure are down overall, mainly due to just the demand in private works, which it goes up and down during the year. KPI side of things on page 84 is pretty well hitting the mark in regards to our rate of return. 85 and 86, we've got real estate, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit in front of budget at the moment, mainly due to the admin costs area there, which is about 20,000, just with some staff vacancies as well. It seems to be a common theme. Moving into our KPI side of things on page 87 to 88, we've got two green indicators there, so the facilities are being well tenanted at this point in time. Page 89, sale yards. Here we've got no votes or surrenders coming through, a little bit behind budget at this point in time, mainly due to the cattle throughput. So obviously our throughput's been lower than what we anticipated in the budget. So hopefully we might see some turnaround. General Manager might want to make a comment.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention. The EPA does a major inspection once every 3 years. They did that this week on Wednesday, and we've just been advised that the EPA's comment to us was it's one of the best sale yards they've inspected. So I think it's a credit to the staff that work out there.
Yeah, that's really pleasing to hear, because I know that before that project started, we definitely would not have got that sort of praise, and so and good on the ongoing management of that facility as well, all those involved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So moving then further down into our KPI side of things, here we've got on page 90 to 91, obviously the red indicator is the number of throughput coming through the facility. Moving on to page 92, the golf course. Here we've got no votes or surrenders coming through. A little bit down in our revenue at this point in time, obviously with the inclement weather and very wet during September. Our green fees have been down a little bit coming through. Moving on to tourism and area promotion, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Over well and truly in front of budget at this point in time, mainly due to the receipt of that grant funding coming in. So we'll be taking up a vote, obviously, for that grant funding, as well as offsetting costs against the tourism event program. Moving into the KPIs on page 94 through to 96, three green indicators there. So as you can see, the VICs are being well and truly well populated by the tourism aspect coming through town, which is quite good. Moving into noxious plants and vermin. Here we've got no votes or surrenders coming through. Our annual levy was a little bit lower than we anticipated, which is quite good. So it's a bit of a saving on the bottom line. Stormwater management on page 98, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Again, we're a little bit underspent at this point in time, mainly due to our maintenance program. So we're a little bit behind in that at this point. Moving into our KPIs, we've got one green indicator and two red indicators. And obviously the red indicators are in regards to our capital works. We're a little bit behind in our timing of our capital works here, but also at the amount spent in regards to our maintenance program. So obviously with the underspend in our maintenance, we're well and truly behind in that area. Moving into street cleaning on page 102, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit overspent at this point in time in regards to our street cleaning contractor, but that obviously comes up and down depending on the weather conditions coming into the mix. Overall, with the KPI on page 103, here we're well and truly in front of our KPI coming in, so it's green indicator there. Waste management on page 104 through to 105, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit overspent at this point in time, mainly due to the capital works area, as we highlighted in the summary, just with the finalisation of our green lid waste bin introduction. So we had a number of those costs coming through. And as mentioned before, with our state government waste levy, which has increased a little bit there. Overall, the big thing in regards to the revenue side of things is the land collection revenue is up, which is quite pleasing. KPI side of things on page 106 through to 109, 2 green indicators and 2 red indicators. The red indicators are mainly regards to the curbside waste diversion from landfill. With regards, I think, to a lot of our curbside for the outlying towns in Merriwa and Runda, I think they're coming into our facility in Scone here now, instead of to Muswellbrook. So that's the main reason why that percentage would be down coming through. Moving on to rates, grants and interest revenues. No request votes coming through here. Bit in front of budget at this point in time. Rates and charges are up by about 100,000, just with the pension and concession timing coming through. And also, as you can see there, the financial assistance grants are increased a little bit more than what we anticipated, so that's quite pleasing. KPI on 111, a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Council services, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit underspent at this point in time, just in regards to our section 356 contributions and our elected members' expenses to date, so that's a little bit down as well. But apart from that, nothing else to highlight there. Health services on page 113, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Here we're just a little bit behind budget coming through, just with our on-site sewer management area there. But apart from that, nothing else to highlight. Moving on to our KPIs on page 114 to 115. Here we've got 1 green indicator and a red indicator coming through. And the red indicator is mainly the number of inspections for the on-site sewer management, which obviously will increase over the course of the year. Emergency housing on page 116. Here, pretty well spot on budget. Nothing to really highlight there. Low income housing, again, similar to the emergency housing. No votes or surrenders and pretty well spot on budget. Public cemeteries on 118, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit underspent coming into the mix, just with our cemetery maintenance. So it's a little bit behind budget. And our revenue is down slightly on site plots. So received to date. KPI side of things, it's a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Public conveniences on 120, no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit overspend in regards to just the servicing and maintenance of our public convenience facilities at this point. But apart from that, nothing to highlight there. KPI side of things, the green indicator on 121. So nothing to highlight there. Street lighting, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Pretty well spot on with our utility costs. A little bit up at the moment, but as the year goes by, we should see that come back into parity. So nothing to highlight there. KPI side of things in street lighting on 123, a green indicator there. So there's been no complaints, which is quite pleasing. Town planning on 124. Here we've got some votes and surrenders, of 2 votes coming through, I beg your pardon. One in regards to increased revenue for our development applications, which is quite pleasing. But the offsetter against that is in regards to the higher cost for our contract planning services. So obviously with our staff vacancies, we've had to enlist some contractors in to undertake that planning opportunities. Overall, we're a little bit overspent at this point. Moving into our KPIs, obviously with the contract planners in, we've got 3 green indicators coming through with our timing for a lot of our DA applications and so forth. Building control, here we've got a surrender going into the mix, which goes back to offset that shortfall in the other in-town planning. So with our vacancies in the building services area, we've just utilised those savings to offset our increase in contractors. KPI side of things, on page 129 to 130, 2 green indicators there, so nothing to highlight there. Quarry operations, no votes or surrenders coming through. Pretty well overall, we're nearly spot on budget. But with that operations, our revenue streams are down, but also our costs on extraction of that material is down, which offset each other. So apart from that, nothing else to highlight there. Public order and safety, animal control on 132, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Here we're a little bit in front of budget, just with our costs in regards to the animal control is down at the moment. We've only got effectively, I think, 1 ranger in play, so we have a vacancy in there for an additional ranger. So we've got a few cost savings coming through. KPI side of things, we've got on page 133 to 134, 2 green indicators there. So we're still meeting our KPIs as required, even with the 1 ranger. Moving into emergency services, no votes or surrenders and nearly spot on budget, so nothing to highlight there. And our KPI on 136 is a green indicator, so nothing to highlight there. Similarly to the fire safety, I've got no votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit underspent just in regards to vehicle maintenance, but apart from that, everything's chugging along quite well. And our KPIs on 138 is a green indicator, so nothing to highlight there. Moving into local government regulations, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Here you'll see that we're a little bit underspent at this point in time, obviously with the staff vacancy that we have with our compliance officer. We've got a few savings in our swimming pool inspections, as well as our nuisance and health requirements. KPI side of things on page 140, 1 green indicator there. So we're still meeting our pool inspections, which is quite good, even with the reduced staffing. Moving on to community recreation and culture, I beg your pardon, and our community centres and halls. No votes or surrenders coming through here. A little bit underspent at this point in time coming through, but apart from that, nothing to highlight there. Our revenue's up and our costs are down, which is a win both sides. Moving into our KPIs on 142, here, obviously with the revenue being up, our hall bookings are also up, so that's a green indicator there. Moving on to cultural services, no votes or surrenders here, we're nearly spot on budget, so nothing to highlight there. KPIs on 144, a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Museums, no votes or surrenders, and nearly again spot on budget. So nothing to highlight there. Other sport and rec on 146, no votes or surrenders coming through. Here we're a little bit underspent just in regards to our salaries in the admin costs there, but apart from that, nothing else to highlight there. And with our KPIs on 147 through to 149, 3 green indicators coming through, so chugging along quite well. Parks and gardens, no votes or surrenders on 150, page 150. Overall, we're a little bit overspent in this area. We had to do a fair bit of tree maintenance, so we had to call in some contractors to undertake a lot of tree maintenance, mainly due to the weather conditions. So we've lopped a number of trees earlier than we anticipated, effectively, that were dangerous to the community. The offsetter against that is that our maintenance within the parks and reserves is down at this point in time. So that's a bit of the offsetter coming through. KPI side of things on 151, a green indicator here, so nothing to highlight there. Public libraries on 152. Here we've got a small vote and surrender, just moving some money between the additional furniture to an actual Aberdeen upgrade. So just itemize the actual capital expenditure in that facility. Overall, we're underspent in this area by 26,000, which is predominantly made up by our admin costs, which is some staff vacancies again for one role in that facility.
Just on our public libraries, if I could, how are we progressing with our Campbell's Corner Library project?
Yeah, we've completed the CapEx review, which was have to lodge with the OLG to get a green light for the project. So that's been done this week. We're at the stage of probably getting the DA lodged fairly soon, and Matt's nodding at me. There is one grant opportunity that we're pursuing for $1 million, which will give us $2.5 million worth of grant funding, which is basically what the QS amount has come in. So we don't want to borrow any money for that project. So yeah, it's looking fairly good. I think we'll start within the next, what do you think, Matt? 9 months or so, 6 to 9 months, we'll be awarding tenders for that project. It's all been designed, so it's ready to lodge the DA, and it should be progressing fairly soon. Our only issue is that we don't have anybody in the project management team who can run this for us, so we might have to outsource the project management of that. We are trying to recruit, but as discussed before, we're having difficulty recruiting a number of positions. We have tried several times to recruit project managers without success, but we will continue to do so. And if we don't have an incumbent in place, we will outsource the project management of that particular project.
Very good. Thank you, Director.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question, please? Is there any chance we can talk to Services New South Wales about taking up a small part of that? I know that there's a few ante-rooms in that design, but while we're designing it, talking to Services New South Wales about putting maybe a 2-person team in there so that we can actually gain some cash back, for one, and 2, service the people of the Upper Hunter more centrally instead of everyone going to Muswellbrook?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Burns. I'm more than happy to start that conversation. As you know, we already have an arrangement with Service New South Wales for Merriwar, and people on this side of the range do tend to have to go down either to Muswellbrook or Singleton to get those services. So we can ask that question. I don't know what the implication is on the design. I'd need to talk to the directors about that, but I'm sure the design is at a stage where it can still be amended if that was something that was supported by the council.
Yeah, I think it is something that we need. We're a growing population.
Yeah, through the chair to you, Councillor Burns. If not within the library footprint, I'm confident that there'll be some other area in Campbell's Corner that we could use for that. We do have a tenant who may be moving out downstairs, that the space may be appropriate, but we can certainly look at that in the overall design.
Lovely. Thank you.
Rightio, moving into our KPIs for the libraries. Here we've got 2 green indicators and a red indicator, and the red indicator is mainly just a meeting in regards to the collection material. So obviously that'll be picked up pretty quick because it's only behind by 1. Moving into our sporting grounds and venues on page 156, here we've just got some offsetting votes and surrenders coming through. Obviously, with the grant funding coming in for Jefferson Park Master Plan, we've increased that, reduced our contributions required. At this point in time, we've put the balance of 20,000 against the project itself. So we'll just see where that stands. So council's money is still sitting in that at this point, which can be utilised either on that master plan, or we can utilise it within the sporting grounds area as need be. Overall, we're nearly spot on budget coming through. We're 10 grand underspent at this point in time, mainly due to the increase in our grants, obviously with Jefferson Park, but a little bit overspent in regards to our finalisation of a number of sporting ground projects that are carried over from the 21-22 financial year. KPI side of things, green indicator there on 157, so nothing to highlight there. Swimming pools on 158. Here we've got no votes or surrenders coming through. Overall, we're a little bit underspent at this point in time. And it's predominantly due to lower utility costs, which has been our water usage charges. So we've had less water usage charges required based on the rain that we've had. But also our maintenance is a little bit underspent at this point in time. Obviously, with the pools opening, we've done all our maintenance we could have done before the before the pools opened, and obviously those funds will be held there until they close, and then we can continue with our maintenance programs down there after that. Moving on to our KPIs on 159, a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. White Park Complex on 160. Here you'll see that we've got a couple of surrenders coming out. Just in regards to our electrical supply, just talking to the guys, it's just been delayed with getting a number of the material componentry together. And obviously talking to Ausgrid, who always hold us up a little bit, unfortunately. So it's more now picked to be completed by the calendar year 2023. So it should be completed by December 2023 is the time frame that we've got around it now. Moving into our overall year to date, as you can see, our user fees are up significantly, as I mentioned earlier in the summary, but also our costs are also up coming through, which gives us a behind budget at the moment by about $20,000. We're looking at a number of things down at that facility. We've got a lot of pipeline events coming through, and hopefully that will start ticking a number of boxes. Should be quite good.
Just on the electricity and the users down there, it is great to see so much utilisation of that space. There's been some challenges, I know, down there with the wet weather and heavy trucks. And I know we've had some challenges with camping in probably inappropriate positions down there. I'm hoping once we have that planned rollout of the electricity, that will organise some of our camping spots a little bit better, and we might be able to keep visitors off the formalised working areas that are causing a little bit of a problem for some users. Just a comment.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, obviously there's a lot of expectation, a lot of things to go very well involved down there. So in regards to camping, as well as the utilisation of the facility itself, which would be quite good moving forward. Moving into aerodromes on 161. Here we've got just a vote coming through, just the finalisation of the development out there, just with that carryover projects for the work shed, as well as the fencing coming in. Overall, you can see here that we're behind budget by about $290,000 at this point in time. 100 or half of it effectively is in regards to the capital works coming through. But also we're a little bit behind in our revenue streams, obviously for the user fees, as I mentioned earlier, and Hunter Warbirds at this point in time. So obviously we're looking at that businesses out there at this over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, and just seeing where we're sitting with that area. Moving into KPI side of things on 162 to 164, we've got 3 green indicators there, so we're hitting all the marks in regards to the safety and compliance requirements out of the airport. Bridges on page 165 through to 166. Here again, we've got some surrenders coming out. I beg your pardon, votes going in, mainly in regards to the carryover works of Cameron's Bridge, which we anticipated to finish before the end of last financial year, but carried over into this year. And also the Klingle Road culvert replacement, which again, we were hoping to finish before the end of last year, but it just carried over slightly into July. Overall, as you can see there, we're about $400,000 overspent, of which is effectively Cameron's Bridge in the capital works area, which is offset by the lower spend that we've had on the 14 replacement bridges coming into the mix. So obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at the timeline from the contractor in delivery of those bridges coming through, and we may have to do a further surrender coming into the mix over the course of the next 3 months just to tidy that up and bring it into reality. Overall, the other side of things is we're underspending our maintenance in regards to our bridges and culverts. So obviously with all those bridges being replaced, our maintenance regimes have reduced as well. KPI side of things on page 167, a green indicator there, so nothing to highlight there. Footpaths and cycleways. Here we've got on 168, here we've got a vote and surrender inside itself here, just moving the money from the Cassilis Public School footpath that is no longer required anymore. The community have more or less indicated that it's not a requirement, and we've moved it into another project out at Cassilis in regards to the decommissioning of the fuel tank in the main business area or the main community area out there at Cassilis. So
Just on curiosity, have we made a start on that, or we've got further planning or on the Cassilis fuel tank and awning?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have. We've actually engaged a contractor to undertake some work on that fuel tank. And at this stage, we've taken some soil tests and we're just waiting for the results of those tests to come back.
Cool. All right. Look forward to hearing that little damage we might have there. That'd be good.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving into footpaths. Oh, we've just been through footpaths, beg your pardon. To the KPIs for footpaths, 2 green indicators there, so nothing to highlight there. RMS state roads on 171, here no votes or surrenders coming through. As I mentioned earlier, we're a little bit higher spend in this area, but which will be recovered through revenue streams that occur in October through to December. So you will see some benefit on the other side. KPI side of things, we've got 1 red indicator and 1 green indicator. We were a little bit behind putting in a couple of our claims in regards to the RMS. So we've got a red indicator there. That should come back into alignment though over the course of the next 3 months as we get the claims in relatively quickly. And the other indicator is a green indicator, so nothing to highlight there. Regional roads and bridges, no votes or surrenders coming through here. Nearly spot on overall. Couple of offsetters are happening in there. Our regional road maintenance is up at this point in time, just with a lot of our cost for flood related damages and so forth has increased our spend. And we're a little bit behind in our capital expenditure area, mainly due to that Ridgeland Street intersection, which is just mainly a timing issue. Overall, with our KPIs on page 175 through to 177, got 1 red indicator and 2 green. The red indicator is we're a little bit behind with our capital works program. So apart from that, nothing else to highlight. Local roads coming through here, you'll see where we've got a number of surrenders coming out and a couple of offsetting surrenders and votes happening as well. Overall, the main projects that we've had to surrender some dollars for and push into the next financial year is Moonam Brook Road and also the Barrington Road. So obviously those are heavily driven on requirement for pipes and materials, as well as council staff and contractors. So we've sat back and had a really realistic look at those coming through. The realisation for Moonam Brook Road is that it probably start early in the next calendar year, so around the February 2023 period. So it'll start taking effect, and then from that one, Barrington Forest Road pretty well starts after that. So the timing of them coming through, so like cascade each other.
Just probably on indulgence, I suppose, mate. Moonam Brook Road, I've had some comments on the state of some potholes and wondering whether we could just put a grader down at it. What's our scheduling up there? And obviously we're in a position where we're going to be rebuilding that road and putting extensive works into it. So I could imagine that we'd not want to put too much effort into that, but it is causing some issues amongst residents.
Mr. Chair, I know the grader's up in Elliston area at the moment. We can get the inspector to have a look at the road, and if it needs a bit of a tidy up before construction begins, we will. Obviously, we won't spend too much money prior to spending construction funds on it, but we will make it safe.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Year to date, overall, we're a little bit underspent at this point in time. Mainly due to effectively additional revenue streams coming in, which is quite good. So as I mentioned earlier, the safer roads and resources for region milestone payments came in a little bit earlier. The other item in there is our maintenance for our rural and urban roads is a little bit down at this point in time. Obviously, we've got a lot of focus in regards to flood damage works. So coming through, we'll obviously pick those maintenance regimes up and spend those funds available. Overall, our capital expenditure side of things, we're a little bit in front of where our schedules are at the moment. So that's the main reason for the overspend in our capital expenditure area. Apart from that, nothing else to highlight in there. KPI side of things on 180 through to 183. Here we've got one amber indicator, 3 reds and a green indicator. The amber indicator, mainly due to our capital works coming through, which is pushing along. And the red indicators are mainly in regards to inspections coming through. So obviously the guys will be going out there and having a look at a number of inspections on roads. So we'll obviously pick those numbers up rather quickly coming into the course of the next 3 months and bring them back into alignment. But apart from that, nothing else to highlight there. Transport auxiliaries on page 185. Here again, we've got, as we mentioned earlier with the CBD, we've more or less backed out over half the dollars in regards to the actual CBD work. So we're expecting still a significant amount of money to be spent on the CBD before the end of June 2023. But we've looked at it realistically with the delay in regards to the funding agreements and so forth. Overall, year to date, a little bit overspent at the moment, just in regards to mainly the capital expenditure area there, which we're ahead in regards to our design works and so forth. KPI side of things on page 186 through to 187, a red indicator there is mainly in regards to maintenance of our identified traffic signs and line marking completed annually. So obviously the boys just have to get out there and just have a really good look in regards to our traffic signs and so forth and line marking. Apart from that, nothing else to highlight coming through there. In water supplies, so water supplies includes all towns now. So we've brought that into the regime of having all towns in there. Overall, again, we've got the surrenders coming through, removing a number of our capital works program coming out. So about $2 million going back, being deferred. Overall, we're a little bit overspent at this point in time in regards to the water supplies. Main reason for that is our water usage fees are down. So obviously with the first quarter, with all the rain around, we haven't had to, the residents haven't had to utilize as much water as we anticipated. KPI side of things on page 190 to 192, 3 green indicators there, so nothing to highlight there. We're tracking quite well. Sewerage for all the towns, again, we've got about $1 million being backed out in regards to our capital works program. So apart from that, the only other things to highlight is year to date, we're a little bit in front of budget at this point in time, year to date, which is quite good. Mainly which is probably not good because our capital works expenditure is a little bit behind coming through, but our rates and charges are up, which is a good thing. So we've actually had a bit of a win there, so that's not too bad. So overall, it's in front by about $250,000. Overall, with its KPIs on page 195 through to 198, here we've got 2 red indicators and 2 green indicators. The red indicators in regards to the capital expenditure so far to date, and the second one in regards to our second red indicator is in regards to our renewal against depreciation. Obviously, with our lower capital expenditure, we won't hit this mark until we actually spend the dollars. So that being said, that is the end of the report, Mr. Chair.
Very good, Mr. Phelps. You got any more questions or comments to add, Councillor Burns?
No, Mr. Chair, I'll move that.
We'll move the recommendation, and I'll second that. We can move forward to contractors' expenses with 11.3. Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a very quick report. It's mainly just to be noted by councillors, just in regards to contracts that councillor enter into that are over $50,000. So apart from the ones that are actually being tendered as coming through, so there has been none for that. And then just a listing of what our consultants and legal fees are to the end of September. So it's just for your information and any questions as there is.
I'm all happy with that. Councillor Burns. Right, I'll move the recommendations to the contractor and expenses report.
Seconded.
Thank you. If we can move forward to the committee meeting, the White Park Management and Development 11.4, and the recommendation on that. Have we got any further information to what's been advised to the White Park Management Group there?
No, councillors, it's just really provided for your information there. If there's any questions, we'll answer them or take them on notice.
Councillor Burns.
No questions, I'll move it.
Very good. Before I second that, I'll just ask, we did discuss at the last corporate services meeting some gravel to go to build up the yards behind. I just wonder whether we've advanced that thought at all.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We're actually seeking quotes in regards to the gravel and looking at an avenue that we might be able to put that gravel down while the facility is not being utilised over the course of the December-January period.
Very good. That's excellent to hear. I'll second that. And the final thing on the agenda is a question with notice. It was one put forward by myself, just on the road eastbound Merriwa from Murdering Hutt Gully to Halls. We've got a response here. Is there any further to that there, General Manager?
No, we have commenced the design work on that, so we've signed off for the design. There's no allocation in the budget for construction works at this stage, but we'll seek either grant funding or possible adjustments to the current capital works program if it's determined that we need to do it before an allocation becomes available next year.
Yep, that's very positive for those traversing between Merriwa and Scone daily. I actually put this in. I did come back from Africa and thought our roads were so much better, and then I did come back and thought, no, this is similar to my Zimbabwean experience. So it would be good if we could get some attention there. Councillor Burns, are you happy with everything here? We got any more questions or comments going forward?
No, I'm happy.
You look happy. I know.
I'm always happy.
All right. Well, without any further question?
Oh, first,
comment?
sorry, without that, just before, Mr. Chair, I apologise. Christian's last meeting,
Oh, yes, I do apologise.
and
Yeah,
well, he should be apologising to us really, but through you, Mr. Chair, I would like this committee to put a vote of thanks to Christian for all his hard work and efforts over the last 4 years. He's answered many questions, some good, some not so good, but he's answered them all. And yeah, I've really enjoyed working with you, Christian.
Yeah, I think we all wish you well. You've took on a very significant challenge up there, and we look forward to hearing how you progress. All right. Well, with that, we might conclude our meeting today at 10:15. Thank you all.
Thank you.